Imagine standing in the middle of a snow-covered driveway on Christmas Eve, holding your shivering 8-year-old daughter's hand, while the sounds of your own family's laughter and clinking champagne glasses echo from behind a locked mahogany door. Imagine being told to leave and never return, not because you committed a crime, not because you were cruel, but because you dared to choose your child's well-being over a twisted family tradition. My parents looked me dead in the eye over a half-eaten turkey and told me that I was no longer their son and that my daughter was no longer their grandchild, all because she couldn't stop crying from a sensory overload they refused to acknowledge. Was I wrong for what I did next? Or would you have walked away from a multi-million-dollar inheritance just to protect your child's heart? I need you to listen to this because I'm still shaking, and I need to know if I'm the monster they say I am. To understand how we got to that frozen driveway, you have to understand the family I grew up in. My parents, Richard and Alina, are the kind of people who value optics over everything. We grew up in a house that felt more like a museum than a home. You didn't sit on the furniture, you admired it. You didn't speak your mind, you recited the script that made the family look best. I was their only son, the prince of the estate, and for 30 years I played the part. I went to the right schools, I took the right job in the family firm, and I married a woman they approved of. But then life happened. My wife passed away 4 years ago, leaving me as a single father to our daughter, Lily. Lily is the light of my life, but she's also different. She's on the autism spectrum, and while she is incredibly bright and loving, she struggles with loud noises, bright flashing lights, and large, chaotic gatherings. For my parents, however, Lily's condition was never something to be accommodated. It was something to be ignored until it went away. Every year, the grand Christmas gala is held at my parents' manor. It's an exhausting, 12-hour affair involving 50 relatives, a live string quartet, and a formal dress code that even the children must follow. For months leading up to this year's dinner, I begged my mother to make a few small concessions. I asked if we could have a quiet room for Lily if she got overwhelmed. I asked if the quartet could play at a lower volume during dinner. My mother just laughed and said that Lily needed to toughen up and learn how the real world works. She told me that the family legacy was built on resilience, not coddling. I should have seen the red flags then, but I wanted my daughter to have a family. I wanted her to know her grandparents. That was my first mistake. We arrived at the manor at 4:00 p.m. The house was a sensory nightmare. There were 3 different Christmas trees, all dripping in blinking LED lights that pulsed at a nauseating frequency. The music was already blaring, and the scent of heavy pine candles was thick enough to choke on. Lily was already gripping my hand so hard her knuckles were white. I pulled my father aside and reminded him that Lily had her noise-canceling headphones in her bag and that she might need to wear them at the table. He looked at me with total disdain and said, "No one sits at my dinner table looking like an air traffic controller, David. She will behave like a lady, or she won't sit at all." I felt a pit in my stomach, but I told myself we could make it through just a few hours. Dinner was served at 7:00 p.m. It was a sea of velvet, silk, and judgmental eyes. Lily was doing her best. She was sitting straight, using the right fork and keeping her eyes on her plate. But my Aunt Martha, a woman who thrives on passive aggression, decided to make Lily her target. She kept leaning over, clicking her long acrylic nails against Lily's crystal water glass, asking her why she wasn't being more social. Every click of those nails was like a physical blow to my daughter. I saw Lily's lower lip start to tremble. I whispered to her that she was doing great, but then the grand tradition began. My father stood up and announced that every person at the table had to stand and give a 5-minute speech about their accomplishments over the past year. When it was Lily's turn, the room went silent. Lily stood up, but the pressure, the lights, and the noise of the heater humming in the background became too much. She started to stim, gently rocking back and forth and humming a low tone to calm herself. My mother slammed her hand on the table. "Stop that ridiculous fidgeting this instant," she hissed. Lily froze, and then the floodgates opened. She didn't scream. She just started to sob, that deep, heartbreaking sob of a child who is completely overwhelmed. Instead of comfort, my parents offered venom. My father stood up, his face purple with rage, and shouted that we were embarrassing him in front of the entire lineage. He told me that I had raised a broken child and that he wouldn't have his Christmas ruined by theatrics. That was when I snapped. I told him he was a cold, heartless man who cared more about a turkey than his own granddaughter. The room went silent. My mother stood up, her voice like ice, and said, "If you cannot control her, you are not part of this family. Leave and never return. We are disinheriting you tonight. Get out of our house." So that's the situation I was in. I was being told to choose between a fortune and my child's dignity, while my entire extended family watched in silence. Before I tell you what I did in those next 5 minutes and how I made sure they regretted every word, I want you to pause and comment below. What would you have done? Would you have apologized just to keep the peace and the money, or would you have walked out? Let me know, because what happened next changed our lives forever. I didn't hesitate. I didn't beg. I looked at my father and said, "With pleasure." I picked Lily up. She buried her face in my neck, and I walked out of that dining room without looking back. My mother shouted after me that I'd be broke within a year, but I didn't care. We got to the hallway, I grabbed our coats, and we stepped out into the freezing night. But as I reached the car, I remembered something. My father's entire business reputation was built on his Family First charity foundation. He was about to receive a massive civic award the following week for his dedication to child welfare. And I, as the CTO of his company, had all the records. I sat in the car, heater blasting, and I looked at Lily. She was finally calm, feeling safe in our bubble. I realized that for years, I had helped my father hide the fact that his charity was nothing more than a tax haven that did almost nothing for actual children. I had the spreadsheets on my cloud drive. 5 minutes after being kicked out, while I was still in their driveway, I sent an email. I didn't send it to him. I sent it to the local news station, the board of directors, and the committee for the civic award. I attached the proof of the misappropriated funds and a short video clip I had captured on my phone of him screaming at an autistic 8-year-old to get out. The fallout was nuclear. By the time my parents finished their dessert, their phones were blowing up. The board called an emergency session that night. By the morning of December 26th, my father was removed as CEO. The charity award was rescinded, and a formal investigation was launched. They lost the house within 6 months due to the legal fees and the collapse of their stocks. They tried to call me, of course. My mother sent me a long, weeping email saying they were just stressed, and that I should do the right thing and retract my statements. I didn't even reply. I blocked them on everything. Today, Lily and I live in a much smaller house, but it's a home. There are no blinking lights she doesn't like, and no one ever tells her broken. We spent this last Christmas in our pajamas, eating pizza and watching movies with the volume turned down just right. I lost a mansion, but I saved my daughter, and I've never slept better. The moral of the story is that family isn't about blood or money. It's about who stands by you when the world gets too loud. If you think I did the right thing by exposing them, like this video, it helps more than you know. Subscribe for more stories about standing up to toxic people, and please share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far with the whistleblowing, or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'll see you all in the next story.